Holy crap on a stick. What the actual hell just happened? Foxes fans, that is what you live for. I would say I'm speechless, and that's not true. I'll hand it over to the others. Guys, in the comments, you've got to put it down. That has got to be one of the best games of football we've seen in a while. That is what you live for. I can tell you the reactions between us three. You can see the smiles on the face. Foxes never quit. Whew. Just give me your initial thoughts. We've got so much to go through. Luke, that smile in your face, you're beaming. Talk to me.
Mate, I'm proper wrapped, mate. So much to get into, but the most important thing is not only are we soaking it in, the players are soaking that in as well. Let that positivity fester, and let's bring it to fucking Forest and turn these assholes over. Excuse me. All the nice Forest fans out there.
Neil, talk to me.
Oh, this match had everything, didn't it? It had a red card, it had a penalty, it had VAR, it had boring patches of game, it had end-to-end football, physicality. We had everything. And thank God that we came out on top. Southampton have kind of bottled that, but again, they don't have to say 10 men. But oh my God, that I don't even know where to start because there's so much to talk about. And this sums up why I love football as a match. There was bits where I was like, this is rubbish. Shall I switch it off? What are we doing? We've come out second half. We've not played. We're letting them play into the game. Then we change it up. Then there's a goal coming out of nowhere. Then we start to change back to the Enzo system. And then we started to play, this. And then he started to play players that we wanted to see on the pitch, playing formations, what to play. And the players just snapped back into it and was like, right, this was like rolling back the years and going, right, this is what we're good at. This is what we can play. So again, just to give you guys some breathing room, because I'm running out of breath now. Oh my God, it has everything. And this kind of what I love about football, because just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Strap yourselves in, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I think this could be a long one for good reason. There is so much to talk about it. Please do keep your comments coming in because I really want to hear what you've got to say. Abdul, man of the match, easily 100% agreed. I think we're going to spend a long time talking about him. Simon, he's got very astute analysis of the game. First 10 minutes was the worst play of the last 2 seasons. Almost switched it off then. Thankfully, I didn't. Simon, what I can tell you, here's a pro tip, right? Listen, follow Neil on Beyond the 90 at Leicester on Twitter because he didn't watch the first half. So he won't admit this. But what happened is the Premier League sent him the script early. They told him that there'd be 3 goals in the second half. So whilst the rest of us were stressing out, Neil was just like casually having the cigar, speaking to the missus, doing the washing, turns up at halftime, sees the 3 goals, 3-2 win. Are you hot on Friday? Are you watching? Are you serious? Keep the comments in. Oh, and Neil too loud and Luke too quiet.
Yeah,
right,
we'll do some clipping for sure.
Okay, I tell you what. It's clipping. I will adjust that. You talk to me. I tell you what. Let me just bring up the stats here. You can talk to me about this while I fix that.
Okay, let me just before we talk through these stats, I want to say one thing. The game completely changed the second that Victor Christensen was subbed off. Finally, Cooper made a decision that was to the positive effects of our side. Okay. Finally, he makes a decent impact sub. Now, what have we been screaming for ages? Let's have JJ move over to the left. We're scared it was going to be Fatawu for a little bit. And then let's have, and we'll put on Fatawu on the right, okay? We're seeing JJ push further up the pitch anyways on that right-hand side. So finally, we get to see what we want. Finally, we get to see a back 3. It changes everything. Now, I forgot it was Ragsy. I think I may have inadvertently called an idiot. If you're watching this, mate, I'm sorry. But what I want to say is this. Weeks, everyone, I want you to go back and watch that first goal. I want you to go back and watch Winks screaming at Okoli because Winks is used to having Vestergaard playing behind. They work so well together with their ball distribution, which is why I was calling for at halftime to see Winks come into the side. We see Christensen come off. We can now build it out the back better. And then in comes Winks, who is screaming to Okoli to where to put those line-breaking passes. Then we're seeing complete shades of Enzo ball. Now, this is what I wanted to ask you guys the entire game. Fatawu, obviously, huge game changer. Winks coming on. But what I want to ask you guys is this. We've heard all kinds of conspiracy theories about, a certain player that got caught in the drink. And, apparently Cooper's been coming to the senior players of the side, asking how you want to play. He reckons he watched all our games. I ask you this. Yes, he made the sub. But do you think that was a Steve Cooper masterclass? Or do you think that was him going, you know what, we're 2-0 down. Fuck it. I might get sacked anyway. You lads do what you want to do and play how you want to play.
Let me just check. Is my microphone any better? Please let me
Yes.
know in chat. Okay, good. That's good to hear. Yeah, that's a really good question for you, Luke. So I'm just going to bring up a few things, which is really good. We'll come to the stats, the table, and all that in a moment. I mean, yeah, firstly, you can see in that second half, there was a point in time where the momentum just kind of went crazy. And that was due to one big change. Now, here's like a little funny thing for you. Here's one half Warriors, by the way, it makes me laugh. So this was Luke. You can see I love Neil's expression here as well. And this is Luke, who's absolutely loving the sauce. So what's he pointing out here? What he's pointing out is we've got the 5-man attack finally is back. And it's not only that it's the 5-man attack, but you've got 2 wingers, 2 box crashing 8s, and you've got the false 9, and you've got the double pivot behind it. And that was the key change in the game. And that is why we won. And Luke's point, which I think was a really good question, is do you think that that was down to the players or down to the manager? And I actually suspect it might have been down to the players, if I'm being honest. But you have to give the manager credit where it's due, right? At halftime, we looked dead and buried. He's put Harry Winks on. As you say, Harry Winks was absolutely instrumental. He was bossing the game in terms of dictating where the ball would go. But really, the big change he did is that normally what we were talking in the game is we said, what would he do? The best thing to do would be to take a fullback. We even said that at halftime, if he takes off a fullback and attacks with a front 5, there's still goals in this and we might do something. He did it. And then again, later on, he took off Mavadidi and we thought, oh no, do you know what? He's going to put like another defender on or Ayew. But no, he kept the front 5 and Ayew got the winner. So unbelievable. You've got to give it. He might have locked into it, but he's got it the right way. And we've won the game. And this could really be a huge turning point for the season, not just because of the result, in my opinion, but the way that we've played. I'll bring some of your comments up in a minute. Some of these comments are absolutely hilarious. By the way, watching Justin get bodied by a 12-year-old was interesting. We had no right to win that, but my God, we needed that. Well, you know what? I would disagree with you, V1. And the guys, can I ask you, just to confirm, we said after we scored the first goal, I said, I think we're going to win this game. And the reason I think we were going
to 64 minutes to be specific.
There you go. We dominated the second half. And I think, look at these stats, right? So if you look at the XG, this is off. Just so you know, before this, have a guess. What do you think was our previous highest XG, the number?
1.1.
Yeah, roughly that. Not even 1.5. So we've completely outdone it today. Yes, they had a man down, but even before that, we had a high XG. Big chances, the total shots that we've made, passes, we went back to our best. 0.8 says Sean James was the highest one. Not necessarily. Okay, so where do you want to take this? I think we've talked about the key thing, but you know what? I think let's start right from the very top, right? So I think, right, that this was the big thing that we did is we changed the starting lineup, and obviously this didn't work at all, right? So he kept the system and he put in Bilal in, and then he's made the change. So we'll just cover this quickly before I think we get to the second half, which is what we all want to talk about. What did you make of that? And what did you make of Bilal, guessing that he, was the big addition to the team?
Luke, I'll give that to you because you watched more of the game than I did.
Say that again. I was expecting Neil to answer that.
No worries.
Now,
yes.
What do you think of El Khanous?
El Khanous, all right. I wanted to go through the players of it. Okay, good. El Khanous, you could see flashes of brilliance of that shot, obviously, and you could also see why he's obviously quite a young player that still has a long ways to go to adapting to Premier League football. I will say this, though. I think that how we played, similar to Enzo Ball, would suit him a lot more as a high 8. I don't see him as an out-and-out 10. He was pushing up quite far up the pitch alongside Vardy, very similar to where you see Ndidi play a lot when he's not playing in that double pivot. So I think there's a player in there, and I think it was just good that he got the minutes. There was very patches of parts where he looked quite nervous and, quite intimidated by the pressures of the Premier League at his age. But after that shot, it's a shame it didn't go in. And I think it's just good that he got minutes and got integrated into the side, and it's good to see that we have depth there on the bench.
Absolutely. Simon, really good point here. Sitting back with 3 attacking midfielders at the start was truly strange. And Akif has said Justin was left in no man's land time and time again. I've got a question for you, Akif, though. Do you think that was the case after he got moved to left centre back and we went to the 3-2-5 shape that we did under Enzo? Or are you talking about just the first half? Because in my opinion, I think once we made that change, whilst we did look a little bit open sometimes on transition, as we did under Enzo, I think we looked a lot more solid regardless. Simon, again, this game definitely had more phases of playing it than the others, though Cooper's Leicester seemed to go for a lot more phases in the typical match. I would kind of agree. So, I mean, I think like with the 3 attacking midfielders, so we're talking about it here. So in the end, I said the 3-5-2 in the pre-match preview. preview, but I think ultimately they played a 3-4-3, but the two wide men didn't really push on so much. So this is what I think was the game really in a nutshell. Fair play to Russell Martin. He made a really brave tactical change, and he decided instead of like wanting to dominate the ball like we do against all the teams, it's leaving us too open. And the last time we played Leicester, we've conceded 9 goals against them. They've just conceded 3 today, which is kind of hilarious, right? And anyway, so how am I going to prevent that? How I'm going to prevent that is by putting an extra man in the back and someone with pace, which is Kyle Walker-Peters. This is a great question, by the way. I'll come to that in just a moment. Is put a 4-man midfield and then 2 wide men with just Cameron Archer up front. And so I think, as per Simon's point, why were we sitting back with the 3 attacking midfielders? You could literally see in the first half, there were shots of Steve Cooper and he looked absolutely lost. Do you not think? Like his face literally looked like, I think I'm getting sacked in the morning. It's not going on very well. And he didn't understand it. And okay, the first goal was good. I think Southampton deserved it. And they even deserved their second goal. But the second goal, the reason why it happened, it was a bit against the run of play. And it's purely because Joe Aribo, no one's picking him up because they're not understanding what system to play. And I think it took us a little bit, to get back, understand what was going on. So some interesting things here. Tito Blue, Cooper man of the match. Admit it, lads. I think you might have to... Wow. I mean, ultimately you're going to manage. So here's the question, and I'll ask this to the panel then. So Cabas, great question. How much of this win can be attributed to Cooper's game management and how much is simply down to the squad strength and a bit of luck? So Luke, because I think you're the person that is normally got the most sort of say. What do you think about that statement?
Well, okay. Well, that's literally what I asked you. And that's why I was saying to you, I was sitting on for ages that I wanted to ask you during the game when I said I would save it for right now. Yeah, okay. So how much of it is down to muscle memory, with like Enzo Ball when he made the change? That's the biggest thing right there in itself. He made the change to take off Victor Christensen and bring on Fatawu. So no matter how he set up after, you have to give him his credit for that. I hate him, and I still kind of want him gone a little bit. And he's a bit of an orc. But I will give him his roses for that. He made the right sub at the right time. It was attacking minded. The question is, going back to that question, is did he instruct that change of shape? It was massive change, moving JJ over to the left. A lot of comments here saying that they don't want to see JJ again or they don't want to see him. I think he's a lot more comfortable on the left-hand side and he gets exposed of a lot of people on that right-hand side. But going back to that question, yes, I think that right decision from Cooper to make that change. How much of that change of structure is a bit of an asterisk for me?
Well, here's an interesting comment from Peaches, who's a Forest fan. So she says, I think he can be a bit of both, to be honest. Not a Cooper defender, but I think he made the right subs that changed the game. There is, of course, an element of you're 2-0 down and nothing to lose, so you might as well really go for it, which I think you agree. And I think Simon, a lot of people here, so, Dawn, subs made all the difference. The Cooper Troopers have a voice again. But look, I would get behind Steve Cooper if we played in the second half. Do you know what? Even if it ended 2-2 or even 2-1, the way that we attacked in that second half, if my team plays like that, I will support them all day, every day. It was refreshing to see. Simon K, if you credit him for getting 3 goals, you also have to blame him for going 2 goals down against the worst team in the Prem. I would agree. So I think that's why you can have like a little bit of both. Locks, the man who does Matchday Live, another brilliant show. Imagine a team with Fatawu and Ricardo starting. Yes, I do agree with that. I will say, though, that I think that if we played that system, right, because you've got the double pivot, Ricardo would be playing in the double pivot. So, for example, having like Ndidi, I think was very good today. You can comment on that if you agree or disagree with that. But I guess what I'm saying is if it's Skip, Winks, Ndidi or Ricardo in that double pivot, I think that's less of an issue, right? And so Ricardo being in the team, he could be. But for example, in this system, I have less of an issue with him being in or out of the team, I would say. I was cussing out when Ayew came on. I hate my words. Think you're not the only one. Had us 2-0 down and didn't know what to do. Why am I supposed to believe that he has the ability to coach this? Now, that is a very fair comment. And I think this is why that Forest game is going to be absolutely pivotal, right? If he starts the way that we ended that game, then for me, I will be a Cooper apologist. If he doesn't do that, though, I would be very disappointed. I've got to say, listen, I think if we were to play an Arsenal again, or a Liverpool or a Man City, and he does this particular system, I have less of an issue. So some more great comments. Please keep them coming in. How do we move forward with this when it looks like Cooper is gambling using tactics that the player understand and played last season under a different manager? Cooper's own style of play never worked. Now, I think that's great. That's sort of the point that you alluded to, isn't it, Luke? But Neil, I'll ask you. So what would you reply to that? how do we move forward with this when it looks like Cooper is just gambling using tactics because his system didn't work? And the truth is we've gone back to the old system. And isn't it amazing that we go back to the old system, we score a goal after 2 minutes, and then we just look like a completely I'll be honest with you, I think we look like a top half team in that last half an hour. And sure, it's against the worst team in the league. They got a red card towards the end, yada, but it was night and day.
Yeah, it was. And the way that we were moving the ball, the progressiveness of the passing, and again, getting people like Winks into that game, because at that point, when you switched it up, because halftime he took off Skip and put on Winks in that game. That was a really, again, I was like, yeah, it's a like for like sub. It's a bit defensive. We were all talking about it. And the second sub, I think, really helped get that ball moving. And that was Christensen for Fatawu. And that made a massive difference because Wiggs started playing those positions. And then, if you notice, Fatawu started quite almost like a right back, quite defensive. And as soon as Wiggs got the ball, he's on his bike. And he's not just going right, he's going wide. And that's something that Enzo did well. He didn't just go, okay, we're going to go play a right back. Let's play right and go right to that side with Fatawu. And he was a menace. They didn't know what to do with him. Playing in this position again, is creating the width out wide. And I believe that this ball, I can't remember look at where the ball is at this time, but it's come from the side here. It's come over to Fatawu, and he had two defenders on him, and he made both of them look silly. What do you want to do? Do you want to go on the outside, or do you want to go? Should I go down the outside? Yeah, I'll do that and put a ball in. Do you want me to just cut in on and then have a shot from far? I'll do that and hit the post. The defenders didn't. Both of them, they're trying to mark him, did not know what to do with him. And that's credit to Cooper. But at the same time, what are we going to do going forward? Are we going to keep doing this? Or is this going to be the time where we're going to play only certain players in certain positions because this is more, again, aggressive? So, yeah. So with Leicester and with Fatawu, I think he made a massive difference to the team. And that's credit to Enzo. But again, taking Christensen off, I don't think any of us in the box. We thought we were going to take Mavididi off and do a like-for-like replacement on the left, which I'm glad that he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I tell you what, here's a good question. It's a question for the panel. Do you reckon Skip is more for the gritty games against higher level opposition and Winks for the attack-minded games? So I'm going to give that to you for Luke. The guy that you have any argument with was Manny, actually. And I know that both of you were on one of Lox's shows. So you talk to me about that. What is your overall impression? Because I think, fair play against Bournemouth, we looked a lot better with the Skip and Ndidi midfield. But I mean, Harry Winks coming on today, I mean, he was one of the big difference makers. So what do you think about that? Is Skip more for the gritty games and Winks for the more attacking minded games? What do you make of that?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked me this. This is a very good question. Okay, so in my opinion, if we were to set up and play how we did at the end of the game, ends the ball, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think in a double pivot, I think would be very effective to actually have them both in together. I don't think that he's just for those raggedy attack. I think attack-minded games, even if it's not attack-minded, I think both Winks and Skip are very good on the ball. Is Fatawu the reason a lot of our success is not only just because Winks comes on. If we can get Winks working well with a Coley and being able to play those short passes back and forth to one another and then dish the ball out wide, then we can build upon that. If not, if we're depending on the double pivot to build through the middle, Skip and Winks are going to be better, in my opinion, at dishing out the ball and distributing it without Vestergaard than Ndidi. So in my opinion, Ndidi has his benefits and pros and cons. But building it out for a double pivot, I think that Harry Winks and Skip is the best option we have available. I'm only saying that because it's obvious at this point Ricardo's going to be frozen out until the Forest game, as I predicted.
We'll ask you about that when we get to that Forest game. Okay, that's a great question, Akib. Simon, we're 8 games in now, and we've gone through and discarded a hell of a lot of ideas, all of which look worse than the fan-preferred system of Enzo Ball plus a bit more attacking intent. 100% agreed. But he's got there. And like I said, I think this is going to be a huge turning point. If he realizes that this is the system, it's going to be good. And Lox kind of points out, I love that, how you just know versus first half versus Forest, it'll be exactly as the same as the first half today. Well, let's see. We can hope it doesn't. I've got a feeling Locks might be right that we do go back to the old system. It doesn't work. Then he goes to the new system, and the new system, well, the new system is the old system and it keeps working. We will see. Interesting one here from Matthews Mutal. We only need 9 wins to stay up now. I mean, that's interesting. And we're actually now, for the first time, we've got 9 points after 8 games, and we've actually won 2 games. Very good. Fatawu was unstoppable, and credit to Fast for trying to get the ball into him. Don't know if anyone noticed. Yeah, I can tell you, Luke was really. I was almost getting a bit sick of him telling me, but
I've got a stat
go for it
as well. And this
please bring it up.
This is the mark stats, and this is specifically on the ball progressions and passes and carries. And you look in that right quarter percentile, it's Fuss, and not just Fuss, Okoli as well, clear of every other player. And yes, this is passes and carries, but again, progressing the ball. This wasn't the entire game. But I think that kind of speaks volumes, in my opinion.
Wow, that is really interesting. I mean, yeah, they improved a lot. And I think I have to say, that once we did the system change, so many players, like Luke, fair play to you, said it all throughout. Like Okoli all of a sudden started looking Vestergaard-esque, but because Winks was telling him what to do and where to pass the ball, Winks was spraying the ball left, right, and centre. Fast and Justin started making their trademark inside channel runs that they did against Enzo. Fatawu, there's a reason why I'm bringing him up on the screen right now. I mean, well, if you don't mind, guys, let me just go over to Fatawu running that Fatawu running down the wing. Hear the Leicester sing. Neil, let's start with you. What did you make of the Ghanaian Messi today?
I'm so happy because we've all been crying out for it, and then when you see it and you go and you see it, you don't know what you're missing until you see it. And I think a lot of us are kind of high on the nostalgia of Enzo Ball, but knowing it's still there, knowing that we can still play this way, and knowing Fatawu, again, credit to him for putting him in the right position. And he just goes, do what you need to do. And he goes, oh my God, I'm going to go absolutely. I am, mate. And you know what? I am. And I'll take it because it's just so good. It was so nice to see him. And we've seen it in a couple of games where he's trying to figure out the Premier League. And yes, this isn't the best quality Premier League team he's going to come up against, but this is going to give him such a confidence boost. If you keep starting him and he keeps playing like this dude's going so high. And we were praising Hermansen for how he saved us as a one-on-one game against Arsenal. Fatawu, his impact has been sublime for this. And I'm so happy for him.
Absolutely. I mean, he was absolutely electric. People keep saying it here. Mahrez regen. Fatawu smiling again. Fatawu has no fear. Tons of them. You know, there's so much to. Fatawu is football. Such a joy. Keep in mind, 2 assists. Was that today? And however many, or how many did he get in? I don't know, but he was just absolutely cooking them. And every time he got on the ball, it was just absolutely electric to see him. How exciting was it? I'm going to go through a few other ones. I mean, what a game of football. Okay, let's talk about this guy. So one thing that I want to say, which I think, again, really shows you the power of system football, is that because we kept the system, even though you could say, for example, that Jordan Ayew on for Bilal El Khanous is a downgrade, or you could say that, well, definitely Bobby de Cordova-Reid for Steffi Mavididi is a downgrade. In my opinion, the team still look very good. Like, for example, Bobby Reid, he miscontrolled the ball a few times, but the miscontrols, they still ended up finding Ndidi, and Ndidi played it into someone, and we almost scored off them. So it wasn't so much that, you know what I mean? Like, the whole system just looked better. And we were saying this, and it was with Ayew. Ayew was playing just as a box-crashing 8. And you know what? He almost gave away a penalty. Let's not forget that guy, right? And, you know, he lost the ball a few times. But at the end of the day, as to say here, right? Ayew keeps making me eat my words. He's definitely so much more effective as a 60-minute sub. I agree with that. And I love the fact that the Chips has pointed out Climo. Climo is actually secretly Steve Cooper for his Ayew love. Who wants to talk to me about Jordan Ayew? And just while I come on to that, someone that I want to bring up that is related to him, surely. This is someone who you probably don't know, but this is someone who we signed in the summer as a coach. This is Andrew Hughes. We signed him from Norwich as our set pieces coach. And wow. So talk to me about both of them. Andrew Hughes, Jordan Ayew. Luke, take it away.
All right. Well, this is a perfect example by a lot of people's comments here that are saying, like, textbook starters and finishers. That is why, not just because he scored the goal, that is a perfect position. We kept shape. We went attacking. We brought him on at the completely right time. Now let's go into the set piece. I think that is now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think it's 3 goals we've scored from set pieces this season. That's already more than last season under a big championship season. I don't even think we even scored more than 1 or 2 set piece goals last season. Everyone's reckoning that. In the comments, if you can think of one, tell me one now, because I don't think you probably can. That lad.
I think we scored more this season than we have in the previous 3 put together. That season we got relegated,
Literally.
we hardly scored any as well, you know. Cooper out, Hughes in.
Hughes in. The last time I can remember set piece goals was like when we were playing in the Europa League the Conference League. But yeah, anyways, Ayew, really good finisher, really good. I think that was great. I would like to see more of that more often. How do you think, Neil?
I think as a performance, I think he was great. And I think apart from probably D. Cordova-Reid, who didn't have too much of an impact in the game, the rest of the subs made a difference to the game. And there's a reason why, if you look at compared to their subs in comparison, and it can show you how subs can have an impact on the game. I think D. Cordova-Reid didn't really have much time to really stamp himself in the game, coming on for 88 minutes. Jordan Ayew obviously got the final goal, Fatawu getting, I think, a couple of assists, and Harry Winks just progressive passing and actually leading and playing that progressive style. I'm just so happy with it. But yeah, I think he came on, he opted a lot. And again, that position, it was such a risk, because if it goes wrong and Ayew scuffs his lines, we're all going for him. And you know what the people will be like, going, oh, well, Ayew's not good enough for Leicester City, etc., etc. Why is he coming on? And that's the kind of position that he'd play. I think he was great. And again, that ball that comes across, I was thinking, oh my God, have we actually risked that? Because I remember, Anil, you saying when we were watching the game, the 94th minute, and Buonanotte misses the opportunity, and you thought, there we go, opportunity done, finished, not going to happen. And then there was that one opportunity, and it was, again, that goal in itself is worth the 6 to 8 million for this season we paid for him.
Jordan Ayew, ole, ole, ole. I love it. Whatever the chant's going to be, we've got to have it. We've got to get it doing. Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying Lars Knudsen was the set pieces coach that Brendan brought in, who was definitely not that good. But for sure, this guy, Andrew Hughes, he's made a huge difference. And did you know that, like, with Norwich, that's why they signed him, is I think they scored something like 13 goals from set pieces. That was halfway through the season. And we've already scored 4, which is incredible. Scott, you've got here, can someone find that in comparison, how we're doing with corners compared to last season? I am going to look at that. I'm not sure if I'll have enough time to get that in the match analysis, but that would be great. If anyone can find that, that would be absolutely brilliant, because I think it's not just on the offensive side, it's on the defensive side too, right? We've hardly conceded any goals against corners. Yes, there was that one against Arsenal. I think the players were absolutely gassed by that point in time, and it was technically an own goal, a bit unlucky, but we just look so much more threatening. You want to say one thing? I mean, you guys just been mentioning about the starters and finishers. So, Neil, you brought this up and you're bang on, right? So, I mean, I've got 2 kind of stats here. I have 2 things that I want to talk about here. So, firstly, on the subs, that you're right. Look at that, Southampton. Do you know what? I feel a bit sorry for them, just because I don't think that their subs were necessarily bad. Like, for example, I thought that Onuachu, when he came on, was a really good sub. He was holding the ball, especially when we were down to 10 men. I can understand a lot of their subs. Whereas ours all made a difference. But, you know, one reason why the game went this way, there was 2 things, right? So look how many yellow cards Southampton were picking up earlier in the game. There's, in fact, one before this. So what they were trying to do, as I say, is they were trying to stop Leicester from getting going before they could even start the move. So every time we broke on transition, because that was the mistake they made against us last season, they just hauled us down with a yellow card. Now, that meant that coming into the second half, a lot of their players were carded. So, of course, what does that mean you've got to do? You've got to change it. So they start changing the players. But unfortunately, the players that come on aren't as good as the ones that started. And that caused them problems. I think that. But the big thing is the system changed. I mean, that is good management. I mean, yeah, I've got to say a few things. Firstly, Cooper's actually... This is going to be the first time I do an analysis video and I say Steve Cooper made good subs, not bad ones. Because he's made a sub at halftime, which was pivotal, Harry Winks. Fatawu completely changed the game. Ayew, at the end of the day, bags the winner. And the Cordova-Reid, okay, didn't do that much. But he probably, I mean, a lot of people have mentioned it in chat that Mabadidi had a bad game today, which I would agree. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, people say he used to have at least 1 bad game in every 4, I would say. Right. And that's not a problem. That's why you have multiple wingers. That even happens to Man City. But guys and girls, do keep the comments coming in. Russell Martin refused to shake any Leicester City Football Club players' hands or the referees after the game and instead stormed down the tunnel, Saints FC. That's very interesting. He sounds like a bit of a salty loser. I would say, yeah.
In a minute.
Packing his bags in.
Yeah, Onuachu hard done by the refs. I mean, I do know what you're saying, which is what they're going to say is that, like, should it have been a red card given that it was a penalty? I'd be interested if you guys in the chat what you think of that, because there is this rule of double jeopardy. He did stop an obvious goal scoring opportunity though, and then clearly, literally, Jordan Ayew pulled back Paul Onuachu on a corner. There's no denying it, right? So in a different day, but at the end of the day, you take those out of it. Look at the game goes. He couldn't really stop the flow. Once Leicester picked up steam, because we were all sitting. I mean, like I said to you, I thought we were going to win the game because just like as long as the match kept going, we were going to win it. We were at peak Leicester. Oh, it was a joy to watch us in that second half. Ellis, I think you've definitely put this. Russell's a bit of a fanny, not going to lie. I think that is the analysis we've all been looking for. Clemo, definite red. I think about that too. And it was a very dirty foul by the Saints. So what do you two guys think about that? And yeah, no, a lot of people have said that this felt like El Sakiko. Would Cooper have been sacked for losing today? Will Martin be sacked? Let's find out. So guys, penalty, and what do you think about Russell Martin?
Which penalty?
For us. Well, not just a penalty. Was it a red card?
I can understand it, but is he stop it? The problem is, if he wasn't the last man, then it would have been a yellow. Since he was the last man, that's why it's a red. And that's just, again, I understand the double jeopardy rule, but yeah, I genuinely think that's why we've got the red. And I think I called that out because it's the last man there and he pulled us cleared. He has to be sent off.
Yeah, I think it's not just even that it's the last man back, but like, for example, if you make a challenge and it goes wrong, but you've made the challenge and it was a fair challenge and that's being clumsy. But that is like maliciously tried. So it's foul play. It's serious foul play. Luke, do you think it was a red, or do you think we got a bit lucky there?
I think we got a bit lucky, to be honest with you. I definitely think it's a penalty. He tried to steal Jamie Vardy's loot. That's what happens. You give a penalty away. Definitely grabbed him. I'm the double jeopardy thing confuses me a little bit. That's the thing. Was he last man? I'm not sure. I thought that anything. It was similar to. You know what it took me back to? It took me back to the Doyle. Do you remember when Doyle got red carded? I think it was against Chelsea. It was right outside the box. Anything inside the box I thought was not up red. I'm not sure. But look, it's a penalty all day. Ayew, definitely lucky. Nowhere near as egregious and obvious as the Jamie Vardy penalty. Slots the penalty. Hasn't had the greatest penalty record of late, as you brought up, Anil, but he done it today. And as for Russell Martin, yeah, probably salty. He's probably sacked. But I do know what you mean. I do feel a bit bad. I feel like he set up correctly the first half, and he made us look stupid, or Cooper look stupid, whoever you want to put the blame on. And you got to give either credit to Cooper. He used 4 subs, as Neil pointed out. He used 4 subs finally. He made a sub at halftime, and we changed shape. So you know what? Maybe we should give him his roses. Maybe it wasn't just up to the players.
Yeah, some interesting comments here. I can see this. So Boho's put here, yeah, what about when a goalie takes out a player and doesn't get sent off? That's the point I'm coming to. But I think what it is, Boho, is I think it depends on how they take them out. So if they take them out by like, it looks like they're trying to get to the ball first and it's a bit clumsy, then people will say, okay, but he's made like a legit challenge. But it's like, if you literally pulled back a player, like, for example, if let's say Ryan Fraser, instead of doing the pullback, tries to sort of like, fall into him or something like that, he might only get a yellow. Look, I can see it either way. I'm going to say something controversial. I think we still win the game, even if it's 11 versus 11. I genuinely think that. I think the way that the flow was going, it was all Leicester and we found our mojo again. That's why I love this game so much. From Scott Blankley, to be fair, Russell Martin had Southampton playing lovely football first half, but had to make changes that didn't work. Could be him getting the bullet. I kind of feel that. And from Akif, yes, we were talking about this. Anyone notice Hermanson playing CB, Prime Enzo, making a footy comeback? Absolutely agree with you. So we're going to go through some of the players and talk about stuff. But first, I've got to bring up this table. I mean, this table, that's made my Saturday night. 8 games played, 9 points won, PSR in the bin, 8 points clear of Southampton. I don't think they catch us now. Honestly, I said that in my pre-match preview. So I think already the least, famous last words, but I think the lowest we can finish is 19th now. We'll see. Ipswich lost today, by the way, just coming back to some results. So Let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah, here we go. So here were some of the other results from today. Unfortunately, there's also other relegation candidates. Man United managed to pick up 3 points today. A bit unfortunate there. But yep, Southampton lost to us. Ipswich lost to Everton. Bournemouth are playing Arsenal later. We'll see what happens there. But we've only got to finish above 3 teams. It's looking pretty good. Cooper on a Conference League run, 25 to 26 season. We can hope so. Thought Skip was one of our better players.
We win two games. We win 2 games, and like they think, there we go. We've got our Emre back, haven't we?
We have, but you know, the difference is, right, I'll say this, is today's game was way better, right? I just got to give a shout out this from Locks. 10:30 a.m. tomorrow is going to be something no one has ever seen before. Luke and Locks praising Steve Cooper. Well, there's only one way to find out. You can find out at 10:30 tomorrow morning, and I believe it's on both blue tinted glasses and Leicester City Down Under, so do look at that. Sean James, you're absolutely right. If we beat Everton, we'd be even higher. And what else we got? Yeah, relegation candidates. Laugh, maybe we'll see that. So you know what, let's talk about then the game. I think obviously you need the first and second half perspective, but let's go through some of the players. So we talked about Mads being like prime centre back, so I'll start actually with you, Neil, if you don't mind. Talk to me about Mads. What did you think of his overall performance?
Absolute unit today. He had to call it. He had opportunities from what I heard in the first half where he saved our bacon for it going 3 or potentially 4-0 up. He had to save from doing fast things. I think it was 56 minutes as well. Brilliant header. I think somebody put it in the chat, and I think that was bang on. Does anybody remember was it the World Cup or the Euros, or the Van Persie header for the Netherlands? And that was like a crazy header. It was one of those. Great header. And push it over the bar. Brilliant, man. He played really well, and if we get playing this way, I'd love to see him start moving into the back line like he did against when we were playing under Enzo, because I think we got the best out of him then. I think he was absolutely a machine, and I think from today's performance, he was an underrated player. And one thing I want to mention from the stats we mentioned there, well, if I bring this up on screen at the moment, we talk about progressive passes or progressive passes. He had as progressive a game as Steffi Mavadidi, which I think is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, I think he was absolute unit today, and he keeps going. He's fantastic.
I want to ask a question in chat. Is there a better keeper in the Premier League than Mads Hermansen this season? Serious question.
So I did this. I was on another show last week, and I argued with him, and I said, I'm not going to fight for anybody for the Leicester team apart from Hermansen. Some people were saying Raya was the only other player that came close. I was like, no, I'm fighting for it. And eventually I got my way up. And this was a top 6 panel, I think, with a West Ham fan, top 6 panel with a West Ham fan and a Newcastle fan. And I still managed to get, because he's fantastic. Sign him on a longer deal. Give him a bigger contract, because this guy's going to go for a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to stop him going because he's too good. But I mean, the reason I think he is the best is because David Raya is a good goalkeeper. Alisson's a good goalkeeper. Edison's a good goalkeeper. But it's like, we don't have Mads. We're not on 9 points. It's as simple as that. And even today, like you said it, that actually one of Southampton's best chances came from Wout Faes trying to Van Persie it into his own keeper, but it was up for it. So yeah, Edison replacement. I actually think that's what's going to happen.
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, do you know what? I'm going to give you 2, if you don't mind, then, Luke. So you can talk a bit about Faes. No, do you know what, Luke? I'm going to give you more than that. I'm going to give you Okoli, Faes, and Christensen, because I've got a feeling you might want to talk about all of these guys in tandem. Don't feel left out, Neil. I'll give you a few players to talk about as well. So, Luke, you talk to me about these 3, because obviously the game changed quite a lot. So you can talk to me about first and second half, and also, you know, are they set up to fail versus is it just them? Because I think that is applicable to Christensen. So go.
Okay, so Christensen, it's now egregiously obvious that, like, the oldest conversation I've had in the book about swapping JJ and him over and bringing in Ricky P. If we kept the shape we did today, we don't bring in Ricky P on a double pivot. It's more than obvious now. I will say this. I don't dislike Christensen. I don't think he suits this system. I also think in the first half that there was a lot of times where he played out of the back a lot better than he normally does. He had one very good cross into Jamie Vardy, The problem is his man marking is very, very scary sometimes, and he's been beaten in my opinion, nearly every single game except Tottenham. All right, that's what I think about Christensen. I think it's glaringly obvious now that just next week just have JJ on the left as a back three, and or if you're going to go 4-2-3-1 like we normally see under Cooper, at least have Ricardo Pereira on the right. It's just too obvious now. Like, come on, don't be an all Cooper. Let's go on to a Coley. The biggest talking point for me in this game is Winks, as I kept banging on, and you said I was annoying you, and I'm sorry, but I just want everyone to do their homework, and I want to just really focus on this. This is a player that's very, very raw, Coley. You can see glimpses of brilliant line-breaking passes. He's in front of Vestergaard because of his pace, and he's been caught out in transition. He's a lot more reliable for his pace, for his size. He's had glimpses of very good line-breaking passes. Now, if he can feel more confident having Winks in front of him, dictating where to pass the ball, when to dish it out, that could be massive for the lad's confidence, and he's going to feel more comfortable having Winks in front of him. So that's why my argument is if we play correctly to the old back three system, that could be very massively beneficial. Moving on to Fuss. Fuss made some very, very good. That last challenge he made at the end of the game was timed perfectly. He's been brilliant, quite similar to the game before. His header, though, was very, very terrifying. The Manson actually made seven shots on target in that, right? And 8 of them should be counted because one of them was from Fuss. His best save was from the Sideshow Bob special. But other than that, mate, he made some brilliant challenges. He made some great runs forward. I thought the defense today, the second half in particular, was a lot better. What are your thoughts on Macaulay, Neil?
I thought he was actually. I didn't really notice him too much in the game, but I thought he was defensively. I think he was great. I think that when we started pairing Ayew against Onuatu, who's this giant, Okoli was the best person to mark against him, and I think he did a good job at marking against somebody that is like 5 inches, 6 inches taller, is more physical than him. I think he's brilliant. Also, I've got the Dominic Wells thing up if you want to look at it later, Neil. But yeah, I think Coley was good. I thought while Fast was, according to those results, I think he did better than. I think he was as good as Coley in the game. I would disagree that. I guess he had that one header that was obviously, if it would have gone in, then that would have reflected that. But the fact that that header, I think they both were great. And it was interesting because we've not seen them two play together with Justin in a back three before. And I think that's where they really shone. And it's something that we said that with Coley coming into the team, we thought we'd play a back three, him playing on the left. So with that and the average, again, formations, etc., I'm happy with kind of both of them. Christensen, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, to be honest. I'm not going to really say too much, but I think them two were as good as each other in the game.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up some stats here that are quite interesting. So you got to see Okoli 5 clearances, 1 interception, 3 total tackles. Fast with less clearances but more total tackles. Yeah, pretty much the muchness. I think though you're right to say that he's probably being downgraded a little bit just purely because he always scores an OG. But yeah, I think they both had good games. I think Fast improved a lot in my opinion when we switched the system. He really looked back to his best. Locks, remember last season when Fast cupped his ears at the fans after they groaned at a lack of urgency? Is that a good or a bad thing, do you think? Because you know what, to be fair, I think just wish he didn't try to replicate Van Persie in his own goal. Absolutely. Yeah, and Fast with the critical clearance at the end. Absolutely, because they almost got in there, I think. What I was going to say is yeah, I don't know about you guys, but something that I liked, and I think Fast was important to this, is towards the end when we're pushing for that winner, we didn't rush the ball. We took our time. And like we all thought that, I don't know in chat if you thought the same, when Buonanotte had that amazing chance and he put it just wide, I was like, damn it. We were so close to getting the win. And fair play to him. I've got the receipts. Neil told me, he said, don't worry, Neil, we're going to have one more chance. And Neil the prophet, because he got sent the Premier League script before the match started, he knew what was happening.
You said we'd win. I didn't say. You said at 64 minutes. I think we're going to win there. I thought you were nuts then. So I think you deserve more credit for that.
Who would like to take JJ?
Go on, Luke.
Fuck, stitch up. This is the hardest one. Really good and like really bad in patches. Actually, you know what? I just think that he was left exposed a lot that first half. I thought as soon as he moved over to the left is brilliant. What do you like? What's up? Sorry, I'm not answering this actually, Neil. I'm putting this back to you.
No worries. I think that's a good one. I'll bring up the stats. I mean, I think JJ, it was a game of two halves. And I think, again, thank you, Locks, for pointing out Dominic Wells' thread. And I will look at that. But I can see that he's basically making a similar point to what I'm going to bring up, which is that if you look at him, his overall rating is actually very high at 7.5. But during the first half, I'm pretty sure it was something like 5.9 or something ridiculous like that. So when we play that system that Cooper likes to have, here we go. Yeah, Sean James got it here. Bingo. The system does not help Justin. But when we switched to what he was done and he moved over to the left-hand side, then all of a sudden you can see that overall he wins loads of ground duels and things like that, makes lots of passes, one key pass, started getting some crosses in, started getting some long balls in. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've been calling for it. The lads have been saying it all the time. But here's the thing. We've been saying if Cooper's going to play his system, put Justin as the left-sided centre-back. But what I'm saying is that that's not the answer either. The answer is that you have to play Enzo's system and then you put Justin or whoever as the left-sided centre-back. So it's not a case of like, as for your point with Christensen, I will go as far as saying this. I think that both Victor Christensen had a good game and Victor Christensen was the reason why we looked so bad in the game, if that makes sense, right? Because it's not his fault, it's the system. And as soon as we change the system, everyone started looking better and we win the game and we score 3 goals. So that's where I'm going to come to it. So, all right. I don't know if you want to take this, Luke, because you obviously mentioned Harry Winks. I feel you're like the best one to do this, is talking about the double pivot, and you can whack in Harry Winks in here as well.
Well, it's a hard one as well because, like, I think indeed he's kind of undroppable at this point. We've seen him be effective in both the double pivot and further up the pitch as well. He had a lot of assists earlier. What I want to talk about is this. Like, you were right to call out that you would see him alternate between box crashing and going back into that double pivot. There's a massive asterisk. I mean, what is the best system in that double pivot? It obviously depends on the matchup and who we're playing and et cetera, et cetera. But I think indeed he had a mixed game. I thought, actually, you know what? No, I think he had a good game. He had some brilliant first touches. I think laid off some beautiful passes outside the box. I thought he was great today, Ndidi. But that momentum changed a lot with that red card, and that's when he really got involved in the game more and more. The question really is that I come to you with, and everyone in the chat, who would you have as your double pivot? Because he's kind of undroppable at the moment, but Winks has demonstrated, at our best, he's absolutely crucial to the starting 11.
That is a really good question, actually. I'll be interested in what people have to say. I mean, you've said that as well, Luke, that we've got so much strength in that double pivot area. I have to say, I think the way that the squad's been built this season is actually pretty good because of that. Like, for example, Skip was the one that unfortunately got took off. But I think that's just really a nice thing to have, that, like, okay, Skip's having a bad game, but you can put Winks on, who's as good, if not better. Or let's say both Skip and Ndidi were having terrible games. You could put on Ricardo or you could put on Hamza. I would prefer if you didn't, but you could. But last season, what did we say? We kept saying if Winks gets injured, Leicester, their promotion challenge is over. And he didn't get injured, but he started having some off games, right? And Leicester struggled really badly. And actually, here's something that Akif said. Yeah, one thing I have to give to Cooper, he has a whole bunch of options and he isn't shy of taking them off if it doesn't work so far. That's what he's showing. Well, I think he's shown it in this game. I'm not sure he's shown it in previous ones. But yes, Akif, I think the squad is powerful enough to allow for that. And he did do it today. Winks and Ndidi, to be honest, Skip can provide energy and dynamism. I think it's just whoever's playing good, you put them in. And if they're not, like, we're going to come to Mavadidi in a second. But it's like, I don't think it's a problem if in Premier League football, someone has a bad game, you just change them for another option. Go on, Neil.
So there's a slight difference between all three of them.
Yeah.
Harry Winks is more of the quarterback, can sway the ball back, is good in possession. Wilfred Ndidi is good at the box-to-box, and as we saw last season, linking up beautifully with Fatawu playing on that side. And I think Skip is better at winning the ball back from defensive positions and giving the 5-yard pass to a player that can then take it and carry it up the pitch. They're not specialists. They're all quite similar in a sense, but that's their strengths of all three of them.
Yeah. Peaches, yes, you are correct. Ricardo is in prison. Here was a shot that Luke took for us a little bit earlier in the week when he went to go and see him. They have a relationship where he's allowed to have a few visitors per week, and Luke is there to represent all of the fans. So unfortunately, that is the case. Lamau, yeah. Ricky P is better at link-up play. I agree, and playing in traffic. And Ndidi, I think Ndidi's done well, though, considering, that I don't think he was ever going to play in that position ever again. So fair play to him. Okay, who wants to talk about Mavadidi then? I tell you what, we could do. yeah, there's a 3 spicy players. So I think we'll do one each here. So I'll talk about Mavididi, so you guys can have the spicy ones. So Mavididi, it wasn't his best game today. I think in the first half, again, the system hasn't really helped him. The one thing I'll say, I said this at half time, is that Southampton absolutely doubled up on him as soon as he got the ball. They knew that they had to stop those wingers getting it. Oh yeah, Sean James about, did you see his story on Instagram? Yes, I did. For those of you who didn't see it, basically someone put an emoji of a bench and saying love the bench. And it's so sad that like he doesn't get any minutes at all. I think that's crazy. He doesn't have to be used the whole time, but he needs to have some minutes. I don't see him getting many games now though after we got this win. So yeah, Steffi Mavididi, not his best game. I think the system didn't help him. In the second half, he looked a bit better, but he was the one that I thought would be subbed. I think fair play to Cooper though. He didn't. I thought he was going to put Fatawu on for Mavididi, and luckily he didn't do that, and it still showed you that the system will work. I think I would actually have preferred to seen Casey McAteer come on for Mavididi than Bobby Reed, but of course McAteer wasn't in the squad. But in the end, he didn't have the best game, but I don't think it was disastrous, and I just think wingers are like that. Like even Mahrez, even in that 15-16 season, people forget that he had bad games. He even had games where he did absolutely nothing, but then still did something amazing. The one that I always remember is the Watford game where against Watford, I was actually at that game, and Riyad Mahrez was absolutely shocking for I think 63 minutes, and then in the 64th minute he made me almost fall over myself as he banged in the winner and got us closer to the title. So that's what can kind of do it. And yeah, Cabas has put Mavididi with a reverse Fatawu. We've seen this so often. One performs well while the other doesn't, and that's true. But I think that's just going to happen with wingers. So who wants to take Bilal?
I'll take it because I saw more in the first half. Look, Bilal, yeah. I've already kind of spoken on him, but I do want to see him get integrated into the side much more. Like I said, he's a raw player, still adjusting to the Premier League. But that goal, if they had gone in, we're off to the races earlier. That was a sexy shot. The first touch and turn was even sexier. But hey, again, I think he would suit playing in a high 8 rather than an attacking 10. But that remains to be seen. But as for now, I would like to see him, integrated in, the last 20 minutes, or maybe they start him in the first half in a team they feel more comfortable playing. I do definitely think there's a player in there. I just think it's going to take a year or two to develop.
Yeah, I mean, that goal was almost, that where he hit the post was unlucky. I think he really grew into the game, Bilal. I think the system change helped him as well. And I think that the substitution was right. I don't think he was having a particularly bad game, but I've said this on a lot of times where just, freshening up the team is important. Cabas with Bilal, very raw, will take lots of time to develop into something useful. But it says spot on Luke, which is good. Simon with Bilal looks skillful, but you can tell the coaches ain't doing much of him because he seemed unsure what to do in the first half, especially. Yeah, I agree. He looked lost sometimes. Yeah. But it looked like he understood a bit better. Go on, Neil. Yeah.
Be an understudy. Sorry, he could be an understudy to Harry Winks, in my opinion, that can then play a Harry Winks role, but then, when possible, could play a Frank Lampard role as well.
Okay, so I've got a question. You go on. Yeah.
Sorry, I've said that I would like to see him in the skip position. I would love to see him in that high advanced double pivot position that Skip plays, where he gets further up the pitch than Winks does. I reckon that could 100% work. By the way, I think you're right to call that out. I mentioned that pre-match, and I've only seen highlights, but on the ball, distributing up the pitch, he's brilliant. We saw that a few times in that game, and that's why I think his stats were first half he went a bit quiet before that shot, but he was the same as I think who it was. He was matched with Boynotti, nearly the same score for stats wise, and I think it was because of some of those passes. Again, I think there's a player in there, but I would actually like to see him play that double pivot position, or you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Anil.
No worries. So I was going to ask you, so if we played the system that we played at the end, where are you seeing Bilal? Because you said to me a few times that you see him as being more of a kind of deep-lying player, Luke, which is fair enough. But do you think in the more Enzo system, he can be a high 8, or do you think he's just not got that? Because I'll be honest with you, I saw him at Genk, and I think he's ideal for the high 8 position, but it has to be in the Enzo style one. I think in that first half, that way that he's used then isn't going to get the best out of him. Where I think when you've got that front 5 going forward, because the 8 also sometimes drop back and get a bit more involved in play, it will get the best out of him. But that's just a personal opinion. So I'm curious as to what you think.
That's bang on the money. So like what he is, if we're playing the Enzo system and we have 2 high 8s, and now we've got no Keenan Dewsbury Hall was a left-sided high 8. That's now the Bilal was the replacement for that. He's the left-footed option, and then you have Boy Notte on the right-hand side as at high 8, and then you have obviously Mavididi and Fatawu on the wing and Vardy up front. That is sexy, and that is what I would love to see going forward, but it will never happen, unfortunately.
No worry. Well, I don't know because we played that in the
Maybe.
second half. I think you might be surprised there, Luke. I'm going to come on to you then, Neil. You're a lucky one because you're getting the player that we've all fallen in love with. Never fall in love with a lone player. If I'm buying a shirt this season, this is the player that I'm doing it. And yeah, here's a good one from Akif. By the way, talking point, Anil, for Morocco, Bilal, he actually plays as a high 8. You see him as a box crasher, and it's the way he's coached. And I saw elements of that today. Yes, I agree with you. Now, I have to say, I've not actually seen Morocco, but I have seen him play at Genk, and he was used a bit similar to that. But to be fair play to Luke, I think Bilal, when he was at Genk, was just all over the place. He was literally their main man. And like, you know, sometimes I swear he was playing as a false 4. A false, you know, he was just absolutely everywhere. But go on, yeah, here we go. He's Maradona without the Charlie. That's what Ant says. Absolutely love it. Go on then, Neil. You've got the star man, Facundo Buonanotte. Do you know what? I don't think he was the star man for me today. We'll come to someone else later. But he absolutely was brilliant. Talk to me about the new Carlos Tevez.
He doesn't, even when he's played out of position, he still gives you everything. He kept running, he kept fighting and challenging, especially in deeper positions. I think he's another player that can play as a 10 or an 8, and they can go, we've got players that can play in multiple positions. He's one of those. And overall in the game, I think he gave us everything, and that's what you want from a player. But not just that, he's got final product. The only thing is, you can see that, and I think we mentioned this during when we were watching it together. He's trying to make everything happen at once. He's trying to go, look, I'm going to grab just like Maddison used to do. I'm going to try and get this team up the pitch, and I'm going to do everything possible. And sometimes that means putting in a shot from wide. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can see how frustrated he is when he misses opportunities. But I'm with you. I'm falling in love with it. It's only been 9 games, but I think he's been fantastic. Diego was actually on the show. We actually interviewed him on our channel, talking about why he was good and how he could play for us, because I think he's going to be a sublime player. And again, if he keeps this up, if that 40 million is available, that's won't say a non-negotiable, but it's going to be hard to say no to.
That's probably why he wears that number. But it's funny that Luke brought this up because I was literally about to say the same thing. So Leicester City Down Under said, slap 40 million on the table in January and show him some woman of the night at the good old Holiday Inn at Seagrave, or the one that's next to the ground. And I genuinely think we have to do that. Like, this is absurd. Like, and it's interesting. Raters put this, Brighton are good enough. They don't need him, you know. But funny enough, they might not need him. And the thing is that like
they spent 40 million. Sorry, they spent 40 million on Rutter.
Yeah. I mean, he plays a slightly different position. Yeah, of course, falling in love with a lone player. Anyone remember Tete? For sure. But I remember Yuri Tillemans. And that's what I was going to say, is that we did this with Yuri Tillemans. We need to, as fans, we need to be singing sign him up. We need to let the board know. But I also think that, like, to be fair, I actually think he'll be one of the few players that probably really like Steve Cooper. And whoever's in charge, they just need to make it that the guy absolutely loves Leicester. We did it with Fatawu last season as well. And I think if we can do that, you know, we're going to get him. And here we go. Thank you, Neil. I like this. This is why I gave you Buonanotte, because he's come with the stats. Talk to me.
It's just great, isn't it? Just look at, I mean, I'm not too much of a statistician like yourself, but he was just, this doesn't define a match. But again, accurate passes, great. Key passes, great.
Facts from Ant.
And being Ant. Successful dribbles. I mean, he was just, he gives it everything. And you know, when he scored against Bournemouth, scored against this game, he scored against Bournemouth, he was celebrating like one of us. And we said this about Fatawu last season. I just hope we do the same thing with him. But again, let's see, because Southampton aren't going to be easy to convince. So Brighton aren't going to be easy to convince to get rid of him.
I don't know. I've got a feeling that because they bought him for 5 to 6 million, that on the FFP, it will look amazing for them. He might even classify as a homegrown product. I actually think there's a genuine, for me, what I think the issue isn't if we can get him. I think Brighton will sell him. I think it will be if another club comes in instead. That I think is the bigger issue. Like, what if in the summer Spurs or something come in? Yeah, here we go. You know,
That's
we
what I
have
was
to
gonna
at
say,
least
Ciao,
do a
Diego.
40 million off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100% in January. Don't fuck around. Just let's
Yeah.
get 40 million cash, baby, and slap that
Yeah.
shit on the fucking desk at Brighton's office. And don't fuck around, bro. He's ours now. Like, they're dead set. It's too late now. We're past beyond falling in love. He's ours now. Fuck off. I'm buying the shirt. I've already a Vardy one coming. I've got a Boy Nazi one coming. We all talked about, would you get a Boy Nazi shirt? It's too late, brother. I'm ordering it as soon as this stream's finished. End rant.
There you go, and use that money, Leicester. Exactly. And yeah, Neil is spot on. His attitude is brilliant. That's the reason why you've got to pay for it. It's like he's not even feels, you know, even if this isn't his parent club, he's not playing like that. And it makes him, you know, go Luke standing on business to get him into the CEO position. Absolutely love it. Okay. I'll take Vardy because then I'm going to give someone else the saucy ones. So Vardy, look, he scored an absolute clutch penalty. I actually loved it when he did the leg snapping challenge that Luke was kind of mentioning before, which I thought was really good. Oh, has this come off for some reason?
So I put it down.
No worries. I'll bring up Vardy. Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. You know, in the first half, he only touched the ball 6 times. But I feel, again, that when we changed the system, he was being linked up in the false 9 a lot better, which helped him again. Now, of course, once Southampton go down to 10 men, he started looking really deadly, and you can tell they were terrified of him. But I think that he was pretty good. You know, I love this Cooper ball, 1 ball off the cheats. Haha. Although some people are going to be calling us cheats, but, you know, whatever there we need to do. So, yeah, I think Vardy was pretty decent overall, and I think it's good that he kept him on and didn't bring on Edouard. I think we've said a few times that Edouard does not look so good when he comes in. I think, actually, my expectation is when Daka comes back in, you're not going to see much of Edouard again. I think it'll be those two playing. But I think he had a solid game. I think, again, the system helped him. I love it. Beat just saying pot on the kettle, because I think that's who we're calling the cheats. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think we can say anything. Here's an interesting one. Question: what do you think about Vardy playing a full 90 minutes every game? Enzo used them quite differently. So what do you guys think about that?
Let me answer that. That was a good question. And I was actually going to bring this up to you.
Yeah.
So he has to do a lot less running because under Enzo, it doesn't matter what striker it was, they dropped very deep and they were expected to double up and hook Taylor back into the box as soon as the wingers took the ball off the pitch. And I think that he has to do, therefore, a lot less running than he was expected of him under the Enzo system. Hence why you saw, you know, him usually play for 70 minutes, then get subbed off for Kalechi or vice versa until Dakia was integrated into the side last season. I think Vardy definitely still is a player in there. Had a few chances. The penalty obviously had his loot stolen from him, but he made up for it with a sexy penalty. And he had one chance that was dished to him from, I think it was Boy Notte. It was a shame that he didn't put it away. So I think that Vardy going forward is just going to be starting week in, week out.
Yeah, I think this is a good point. The 2-8s helped him last season. I agree. I think it means that he doesn't have to run so much, and it makes him work better. Okay, so...
But with that, you've got the 2-8s, obviously, in Ayew and Buonanotte that give you that running in if he decides to play this 3-2-4-1 going forward.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, we've talked a lot about wings. We said he was absolutely instrumental for bringing us back into the game. And yes, it's an interesting one. Should he be playing more against the attacking teams? I mean, I think in that system, he's got to play if we play that system, and I hope that we do. I think Bobby Reid wasn't on the pitch for long enough to talk about him. So that we've already mentioned him before. But let's just talk again a little bit about the 2 subs that changed the game, I would say. So Fatawu, we've already given him his flowers, but I feel like we could do a little bit more. Unbelievable, right? He's got to be playing in that high wing position.
I think against Nottingham Forest, that's the player you need with that attitude. Him and Buonanotte.
Yeah. Well, that'll be good. I'll tell you what, when we actually spoke about these players, I forget we did it earlier. So finally, let's talk about the orc himself, the definition of attractiveness. I've got to start with you, Luke. So Steve Cooper, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we've all said it. We were 2-0 down, and you've got to put that on the manager. But at the end of the day, we've won 3-2. We've had our best half of the season. I don't know about you, but games like this, you'll remember this game for a long, long time. Even if we do get relegated, mid-table, whatever. We all remember that Spurs game for the negative reasons, but you remember games like this. So what did you think about Steve Cooper's overall performance today, and what are your hopes and expectations from him going forwards this season?
Good question. I will give him a little bit of roses for the subs that he made that completely changed the game. He made all the subs that I called for at halftime with blue tinted glasses. But I am not going to give him his bouquet of flowers until I see how he shapes up in the next game. We just saw an absolute correct. We yet to see a full 90-minute performance. There was patches in that first half, unfortunately, even though we went 2-0 down, particularly because they killed us in transition of how they set up with Russell Martin. So he kind of scored Cooper in that first half, and then Cooper made up for it in the second, which is the most important thing, and then we walked away with a win. Granted, they were down one man. So let's just wait and see how we shape up against Forest. Let's see if he plays a back three. Let's see if he swaps out Victor Christensen. That's the most important thing for me. Double pivot position, you can make an argument in a case, like I said earlier, depending on the side and who we're playing. I would not be angry if Winks was dropped, but he's kind of undroppable after that performance. But it all depends on how he sees himself playing against Forest. So his old side is going to know a fair bit about them. That will be the most telling for me in terms of a game is one, how he shapes up against Forest and how we go in that game. That is probably the biggest game for him.
Akis asked, when do we play Forest, by the way? That's the next game, and it's on Friday. So it's the Friday night Midlands derby. We're all going to be in Matchday Live for that one. We're really looking forward to it. No, it's Friday, not Saturday. It's Friday night. They moved it to that one, so it's really exciting. Neil, what would you like to say about Steve Cooper?
He is a player he's a manager that got it wrong and then accidentally got it right. And then for me, obviously this game we've been buzzing throughout. Now we've kind of the emotions died down. What does he do from here? And we said there is a blueprint there. There is a blueprint of how we can play and how you've come from 2-0 down to 3-2. In the same way that when he's had multiple opportunities where he's had the opportunity to see what we've done and go, right, this is how we can play. It's like, when we had FFP and we're like, right, we're not getting a points deduction this season. They go, great, it's just on him to go and turn up. And this is another opportunity for him to go, I'm not saying you've had a get out of jail free card, but you've got, this way has worked. What are you going to do now? So if he goes back to how he used to play, that means his ego is in the way and his arrogance is in the way of actual results. But again, we will have to see as well.
Yeah. Doug, we're good. Thank you for asking. And Luke's good. Comrades. Yeah, so I would say, and probably to round out the show, very similar, which is that look, I think I always like to be objective. At the end of the day, I've criticized Cooper many times for not really understanding the game state and not making the right changes and therefore losing out on points which he could get. In this game, I cannot say that. Every move he made was the right move. Spot on Cooper, as Ray said here. And it shows you that he can do it, right? And yes, maybe as Brookline put a really good thing here, which is basically he's doing the reverse Ranieri as he reluctantly returns to last year's team sheet. Reluctantly key being the word. I think, JJ to the left, only missing one Portuguese and one missing Dane. And yes, perhaps they should be back in the team. But whoever's in the team, that system, and it worked. And what I do like about it, though, is he made a sub at halftime. It was a key change. Then he made another sub at 60. And that was what changed the game. And then once we got back to a goal, rather than being defensive, because you know what? We were still looking like we could get caught out on transition. And he said, no, what? I'm going to keep the system and keep going because we've got to win this game. And then we did it. And in the end, the team kept going and we win the game. As the guys have said, that's just for this game. Going forwards, will he learn? If he plays that system going forward, the fans will get behind him. I think the players will come back on side. And I think he could actually have a very good career here if he really wants to do it. So it's up to him if he wants to do it. And Sean said here, I cannot give him flowers for the 2 wins that look good only for one half. Never a full 90 minute that was actually good. And I think that's absolutely fair. So, that's where we are on that. So look, just to round out the show, I just want to ask everyone, who was your man of the match? You can include subs in this too. Luke, man of the match today?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to go Boynotti still. I think that there was a moment in that first half where he took on two men and broke free and just drove forward. That was I think that was the opportunity to give to Vardy. That was absolutely deadly. And that was at that moment of time when he made that you knew it was going to be a highlight. And that's when I got on the phone call. I switched watching the game and I gave mate in the board, what's his name? The bellend that needs sacking. I've just drawn a blank. What's the guy's name? What's his name that everyone hates? Rodkin. Thank you for helping me out there. I was on the phone to Rodkin and I was like, sorry, I forgot your name, brother, but you better have that 40 million cash ready, get top on the phone and sign this fucking man because he's ours now. And send me a shirt while you're at it. Thank you.
Neil, who is your man of the match?
It's so tough. This one's really hard. I genuinely think a player that we're forgetting, I think Mads Hermansen could be contender. I genuinely
Wow, I
mean
tell
that.
you what, that's left field. I haven't seen anyone in chat say that, but you know what? I can kind of see why you're saying that. Having to make an incredible world-class save against your own defender who's hell bent on scoring an OG.
And the save in the first half as well to stop it
Yeah.
going stupid crazy in terms of score.
Oh, when he
For
clawed
me,
it off the
him.
line when it went underneath him, yeah.
Yes, it was him. It's Fatawu, it's Winks, and it's Buonanotte. And
Interesting.
that's my four. I'd say fine, drop Hermansen there, and it's out of them three. Fatawu got 2 assists, Buonanotte scored, but Winks was unbelievably instrumental as well. I can't choose between them three.
Well, I mean, normally with a team performance, you do that. For me, I've got to give it to Fatawu. I think calling Buonanotte is maybe the objective, better reason to go. But I just think when Fatawu came on, you could even... Do you know how Vardy used to do this? We were just watching it on a stream, but I could feel the terror at the St. Mary's Stadium. Every time he got the ball, you could literally hear it go quiet, that they were scared and they were doing it. And there was one moment, I don't know if you saw it, where he got the ball, he kicked it past himself, and I thought he overran it. And somehow he still got onto the ball and still made a cross, and it was devastating. And yeah, I think Sean just put it. Fatawu was the game changer. Mads kept it within distance. Wings gave a structure, and Ayew won it. Well, I think. Do you know what? That's the comment I think we can leave it with. That's a brilliant roundup. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Go watch the highlights. That's what football's all about. I enjoy myself thoroughly. What an amazing game of football. What an amazing sport. Fair play to the Orc Steve Cooper. He actually got it right for once. And we've come back with one of the most enjoyable games I've seen anyway, in a very long time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Take care, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.